Make sure 1 2 1 2. How you doing, everybody? Today I have a new special guest with me today. This guy right here. His name is Connor. How you doing, Connor?
Good, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm chilling. Why don't you tell the people about yourself? Who are you?
So my parents actually live right next door. That's how I got to know Macau. I'm a high school math teacher here in Phoenix. Coach the golf team at the school. Moved down here a couple years ago from the Midwest. So, yeah.
Yeah, as dreary as Connor sounds, he's actually a very interesting guy. I actually had the great opportunity to talk with him and his parents. And surprisingly enough, it turned out Connor and I had a lot in common, and we ended up getting along great. And he wanted to be on the podcast, so here we are today. Glad we actually finally get to put that forward. So today's topic is going to be appreciation in light of the holiday we just had, Thanksgiving, also AKA being thankful. You know, why should we be thankful, and how can we come about a greater appreciation, not just of things around us, but the small things of life. You know, it ties into, you know, how can I be happy, you know, be a happier person with things that go on in our daily lives, right? So let's start without further ado. It is about appreciation, in my opinion, that it's the key to being happy in the simplest forms of life. So it's being able to be happy or to find happiness in the smallest aspects of life. When I say simple, at first you might think of things that come to your mind to be like simple actions, like maybe some kind of hobby that you like to do. Maybe for me, it'd be writing, you know, being appreciative of writing, you know, or reading, or, you know, maybe playing video games, watching TV, things like that. Or maybe something that someone else does that fills you with joy. Maybe your parents being able to do something for you and you're appreciative that they're able to do it. But, you know, there's a lot of things that in life we take for granted, and that's kind of what this whole thing is about. You know, kind of trying to take those smaller things that, you know, in our daily lives, especially as a first world country, you know, we just take for granted because there's so many things that other people don't have in the world. Is there anything in your life that you feel like most people, especially as a first world country, you know, take for granted?
I think especially before the pandemic, we would take for granted our family and our friends, especially those that we see a lot, those that we're able to visit with a lot. Just kind of ignoring the fact that it is a great thing to be able to spend time with those people. Being able to go out and blow off steam just at a bar, restaurant,
Sure.
enjoy the environment. I think the pandemic right now has brought out a ton of those things where we are used to very small things, and in family and friends, bigger things, but used to things that seemed so easy, seemed to be given, but obviously at the time are not the most important things. Now we're able to appreciate those more because we've had to spend time away from them.
Yeah, I like to think of it as the things you thought were, like you said, given are actually privileges that at any point in time can be taken away, not by someone, but how life, you know, goes on, how life moves forward. Because there was no point in my mind or in my lifetime that I would think that, you know, my privilege of being able to go outside would be taken away from me, you know. And it's not so much that, yes, the government did tell us to, but it was also upon my own accord that, you know what, because realistically speaking, well, if I go outside, the cops not gonna show me like, yo, what are you doing? It's like, it's more of the matter of me wanting to be safe for myself, you know what I'm saying? With that being said, there are aspects of appreciation that we have been talking about. Yes, those are clearly aspects of appreciation, like how you brought up friends and family. But what we want to do here, being philosophical, is become deeper in that appreciation, deeper in, you know, what we're thinking about when it comes to appreciation. So I believe that true appreciation, or with the last holiday, a feeling of thankfulness, can't be understood without first understanding a lack of or the dark side of a light. So to put that in common terms, it's kind of like being able to understand the good of something because you've experienced the bad. There was something that 50 Cent once said 50 Cent said in a line for the song Many Men. Great song. If you don't know that song, definitely take a listen.
Yeah.
Fantastic song. So in that song, he said, and I quote, "Sunny days wouldn't be so special if it wasn't for rain. Joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain." And, even as a kid, I listened to that song, I thought about it. I was like, what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that resonated with me heavily. And thinking more into that, I was like, yo, you know what? That's true. Because if you're happy all the time, quote unquote, how are you going to really be appreciative of it if you've never known something to be bad?
Mm-hmm.
How can I say, you know what? This is a really good cake if I've never had a bad cake before.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to put it on a scale from 1 to 10
Mm-hmm.
if I don't know what 1 is and I don't know what a 10 is?
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in your life that you feel like you were able to come to a greater appreciation of it because you were able to understand how it was to be in a bad spot or to not really be able to experience a good thing about it?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things in terms of appreciation is, so I coached the golf team, as I said, played a lot of golf in high school and college, and during those rounds, you are really just out on your own thinking about everything. Like you say, a lot of philosophical stuff. You can choose to do that. You can choose to focus on the round. You could choose to drift in and out of different things. But during a round of golf, the things that have helped me was appreciating and finding the good in what was going on. In a 4 or 5 hour round, not everything's going to go your way, and especially early years in high school, the things I kept reminding myself of initially, my first thought was, at least I'm not in school today. I'm going to shoot a 90 whatever today, but I'm not in school. It could, and quick look at the watch. Could be in history class right now.
True.
Could be listening to the teacher read from a book right now. I'm not there, so I can appreciate that aspect, and then trying to work in that feeling of appreciation, recognizing those things without reaching the bottom, without getting to the point where it takes like the worst round of golf in my life to start thinking of things I'm appreciative of.
Yeah.
Where just any part of the round, any part of the day, trying to recognize, well, I could be doing this, or I remember that this day didn't go the way I wanted, and today is going better than that. So golf was definitely an opportunity to try and find those things that, when things aren't going well, what is it that you're glad about? And the thing people always say on the golf course, like beats sitting at home or beats a bad day on the course better than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember the things that we are appreciative of during the round, and obviously those things change.
Of course.
The initial thing was not in school, at least. Now coaching the kids is I get to be around them, even if they're not playing well or I'm not playing well.
Yeah.
We get to be around them.
It's always finding that in everything you're appreciative of. In that same sense, you're able to find joy in that thing you're appreciative of. You're able to find that happiness. So let's say you're like, man, I'm not in school right now. There's a joy that comes with that. You're like, man, this feels good. I don't have to be in school in front of this lame teacher. Like, I'm here out having fun, So I love that you brought that up. So I think the question is, how are we supposed to, really truly be appreciative without understanding the depth of what we're doing? Like, how am I supposed to really appreciate going on? For me, like sport-wise, would be playing football. How am I supposed to appreciate playing football when there's a bunch of people playing football? There's everyone and their mom able to go out there and throw a ball or catch a ball and things like that. It's being able to kind of take what you're able to do and what other people are able to do, and kind of realize that there are some people that aren't able to do the same thing. It's kind of funny. There was at one point in time, I was back in high school, and I can't really remember the year I watched it. It might have been like 11th grade or something like that. And there was a play we watched, and obviously it's English class, so we probably had to write something about it. I don't remember all that though. But so in the play I watched, the main character was a young lady, and she ended up dying maybe around 12 or 16, somewhere in that range. So she was really young, and her soul was actually forced to stay on Earth. And beneath the earth, in the cemetery, there was a bunch of people sitting in chairs. and everyone was people in the cemetery whose souls still had to, be on earth waiting to be caught up into heaven. And as she's sitting there and she's talking to the people, there's a dude to her right and a lady to her left, could be vice versa, I forget. But she's looking over, it's like, yo, where am I? Like, what's going on? And they're explaining to her, like, yo, you passed on, like, we're all waiting for our time to go. She's like, what? I'm dead. Like, I just started living my life. I just started, really being able to do this and do that and things like that, And as she's kind of understanding where she's at in her own life cycle now, she is starting to realize the things she missed out on in life. And originally, while she's there, she talks about her friends, she talks about her family, she talks about, different things that she was always able to do or things that she was about to be able to do or was just starting to be able to do. For example, to put that in light, it'd be like for me being a 16-year-old and I'm first able to drive. It's like, man, I just started being able to drive, now I can't do that. But as she, continues to complain and realize what she's lost, she starts to think about deeper things. She starts to talk about how she misses to breathe, how she misses to smell, how she misses the feeling of a warm summer breeze on her body. And that scene really resonated with me. That was the end of the movie, And that resonated with me because it was like, damn, if this girl who's so young can kind of course, think about the superficial things, but think about the deeper things that people aren't able to do. And you think, hey, everyone's able to breathe. Everyone's able to feel the warm wind on their skin. No, they're not. There's plenty of paraplegics who I'm sure would love to feel something. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's plenty of people who unfortunately have passed on who would love to be sitting right here breathing with us, So being able to take that into account, I began to kind of search for ways to appreciate small things in life. How do I appreciate breathing? How do I appreciate feeling a warm gust of wind or, even smelling something that's, good, smelling mom's cooking, smelling, supermarket or whatever the case may be. So by combining these two things of my knowledge of, what we're able to actually do and realizing that there's some things that, you have to go through the bad to understand the good. Mm-hmm. I've been able to kind of come to a conclusion of how I can appreciate smaller things, which is, in my eyes, getting out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So what are some ways you feel like you've been able to get out of your comfort zone and actually become more appreciative of something as a result of it?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Midwest, went to college in the Midwest.
Midwest where?
So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and then went to college in Kansas City, Missouri. But I knew that I wanted to come down to Phoenix, a variety of reasons, coaching golf being one of them, and the particular school that I'm at being a major reason as well. But I guess getting out of my comfort zone, like I've been here once or twice, but never moved here. Mm-hmm. Didn't know anybody here, just kind of going out on my own. Obviously, had never been a teacher before, never been a coach before. Didn't know how to look for houses, apartments, and that. So really just jumping into everything all at once was getting out of the comfort zone for sure. Mm-hmm. And the obvious one is like by moving away from, parents is always going to happen, but moving away from the extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, things like that, you obviously appreciate going back home. Yeah. So that was a big thing where moving away got me out of my comfort zone, and then being able to appreciate because I was uncomfortable, because I was doing, the first Thanksgiving we were here, my wife was working, so I was home to make dinner on my own. It's like I don't know how to cook anything, especially Thanksgiving. Grandma cooked this, aunt cooked this, mom cooked this, so trying to figure that out. And then doing Thanksgiving when she gets back from work, having that, I really miss all of the chaos around the house, all of the different smells around the house. Like, sure, it was a meal more catered to us, but it was also just missing all of the craziness that goes on within the family holiday.
100%. There's a lot of things that we can take from our daily lives, and we're able to, kind of appreciate them. I like how you brought up Thanksgiving, with it just being Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of things in our daily lives, not being a holiday, that we're able to kind of go out of our comfort zone and appreciate. Like for me, for example, when it's cold outside, I'll go outside without a jacket on, and I'll just stand there. Or maybe I'll walk around or something. And I'll be like, you know what, this is, and I know a lot of people can say that I've done this before, because I've been with people, and they'll be like, yo, don't you want a jacket? Like, it's cold outside. I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, yo, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm just trying to be appreciative. Not so much, yes, of the cold itself, because there's some people that, maybe they never left Florida, and they don't know what a real cold breeze is like. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of take that upon myself to acknowledge that, yes, I am cold. And then once I get to a warmer climate or a warmer environment, I'm like, man, like this feels good. Like you're just able to really sit there and appreciate it. Or also, for example, a lot of times, I don't know if you do this at all, but especially in Arizona, there's a lot of natural beauty. And I really appreciate how I'm able to not just look at what's in front of me or look down at what I'm looking at, but to look up, look at the environment, look at the tops of trees, and I love doing it in Pennsylvania. Like there's trees everywhere, yo, especially on my way to work. It's very foresty on both sides. So I'm able to look up when it's fall, just look at the trees, take the time to just acknowledge everything around me and really taking that appreciation of it. So is there anything that you do or say you can do or think you can do out of your daily routine that you think, oh man, like I can be appreciative or step out of my comfort zone in how I wake up, when I wake up, in what I wear when I go outside, the things that I've eaten today, the things I've smelt today, because in reality, there's a lot of things that, yes, are different in those minor things, but that are also the same. You're going to sleep in the same bed every night. You're going to, brush your teeth with the same toothbrush, or, use the same toothpaste until it's done, of course. So what do you think that you can do to kind of try to learn to break down life itself and kind of appreciate those things?
Yeah, so being a teacher, a lot of the days can seem the same. When you're teaching a lesson day generally looks the same. You get the kids all settled in, get started, talk about the previous lesson, tie it into what we're doing now, and then just kind of get rolling. But as much as each day can be the same, days with high school kids are different on a minute by minute basis. Each kid is always different. Each kid in high school will interact with each other differently. So even though the structure of the day is always the same, we got the bells at the same time, we all go to lunch at the same time, the interactions are always different. And so that's something where I really find joy and find appreciation, where a kid may not do well on a quiz or test or assignment, whatever, but being able to help them through that is a great challenge of being a teacher. One of the most fun parts of being a teacher. But just seeing their reaction when they get to an understanding, seeing how their table, their group, their partner, whatever it is, reacts to them getting to that understanding. All the small interactions within the structure is what changes throughout the day. And that's what it's actually, those things are easy to appreciate because it's just so much fun to see the kids grow through those things.
Yeah, those are really good things that you're able to see every day. Now, with that being said, I feel like I put out a pretty specific basis on what true appreciation is. You're able to kind of see or acknowledge what you have, see that some people, maybe don't have it, or maybe that they're some things you could change about your life, and kind of get to appreciate what you're able to do with your own. Now, with that being said, there's also a lot of things that as a person I won't be able to fully appreciate based off that explanation of having to go through something bad to be through something good. For example, like I won't really be able to appreciate sight because I've never been blind. How am I supposed to truly appreciate breathing when I've never been able to not breathe? Maybe if you hold your breath underwater, you're like, yo, I really appreciate this air right now. You're gonna swim to the top. That's for sure. But so the question, begins to grow. How am I going to appreciate something that I've never been able to experience the battle or have experience without having this. What do you feel like? And now you've written or read my notes, so you know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up a play or movie earlier, because when you told me about the topic yesterday, I immediately thought of a movie we watched recently, where the main character turns, I think, 18 or so, and finds out that he can go back in time. Where his dad tells him, all the men in our family, you can go back in time. And it's not, it's not this sci-fi thing where you jump in a machine, whatever. They make it pretty easy to understand. Hey, you can go back in time. You can do as many times you want. Don't really change anything crazy. Don't do anything super different. But you can experience things over and over. And what the character does is initially he tries to perfect his interactions with other people. He meets a girl, tries a couple pickup lines, that type of thing, where he's trying to, in his eyes, make his day perfect. And as you get further and further along, his dad is sick, so you're thinking, oh, like this is a great opportunity where, of course, he's going to realize, how much he appreciates being with his dad. The thing in the movie is playing ping pong with his dad. Of course, that's going to be the thing he appreciates. But when he goes back in time to spend time with his dad one more time, his dad tells him the two things he learned, or the two ways he used his time traveling abilities, and that was to go back, or to live each day on its own, don't change anything, and just be there, do your thing. Go back at the end of the day, relive it, and really let everything sink in. Let your commute to work sink in. The traffic, the sounds of the city, the time it takes you, all of that stuff. Let that all sink in. And the other thing is that he tells him, I think, is don't change too much, because your plans are not always the best. And again, initially, he was trying to make his day perfect. And the main character goes on after his dad had passed to talk about, I really did go into that. I lived each day, and then I went back and just let it all sink in. They show a couple scenes where that's happening. Rushing through the subway station trying to catch a plane, he just stands and looks up at the station and all the people, and just how crazy it is, but also how perfect it is. But then he adds to that instead of going through each day and then reliving it and soaking it in, he just tries to do that the first time around. So I think that's an important thing, where obviously we are not able to relive each day or to go back and try to perfect certain moments. But what we can do is, as quickly as you can realize that something is not perfect, or that something could start to derail your day, derail your attitude, your spirit, whatever, shift your focus to either why you can appreciate it, or how you can make it through, and how that feeling making it through whatever the struggle is something to appreciate.
I feel that. And I like what you said. You said, let that sink in. And unfortunately, us as people, we don't have the ability to go back in time. So a lot of appreciation is about living in the moment and being able to let, that moment sink in. You know what I'm saying? So like, for example, for me, it's not, when I say acknowledge something so that way you can be appreciative of it, acknowledging it is letting it sink in. So for me to go outside and feel that cold air, it's not just me feeling it and acknowledging it mentally, but letting it sink in. You know what I'm saying? Letting that sink in, letting that feel like, man, I'm cold right now. Feeling the goosebumps, feeling the cold breeze, feeling the shiver. You feel me? And now with all those things that we're able to do, I think we're able to kind of feel that appreciation without really experiencing it through a point of displacement. You know what I'm saying? So being able to step back and be like, man, like this is crazy. I want to really, take a second to let this sink in. And that's just another aspect of appreciation. So being able to step back and just simply accept or acknowledge that people aren't the same or aren't able to have the same things. Is there anything that you can say, and not just in your life, I'm talking about recently, that you just said, all right, man, this was a good day. Or man, that act was crazy. And just really let that, man, let me let this sink in.
Yeah. So I think small moments like that happen every day with the students, where it really is amazing to be able to get them from a point where, when they called you over and had a question on the topic, they were clueless, and then seeing them work through mentally, either on the paper or in their minds, work through and get to an understanding. Those moments are really easy to appreciate. They're maybe not as grand, but they're really easy to appreciate. In terms of the bigger things, I think just relationships with family members, especially my wife. There's always, especially now when we're all spending so much time together, it can be easy to focus on the negative things, but to get to a point where you're seeing everything as being a positive, or again, displacing yourself from whatever silly argument is going on, and realizing like this is the person that you want to be with the rest of your life, and that one feeling can help you appreciate even an argument that's going on. And I think that's something that I try to do that really helps.
I think that's a great point. And like one of the things that kind of, was a big point in my mind, I like how you brought up relationships, is kind of, and it's always bugged me a little bit, because, even when I talk about philosophy or I talk about, different types of things, in some aspect or some way, I'm always able to kind of round about back towards the concept of death. Mm-hmm. And with appreciation, I always came to think about, man, we're not going to be here, forever. No one's eternal. No one's immortal. We're going to have to go at some point in time. Mm-hmm. So how am I going to take the time I have here to really appreciate the people that are around me? Mm-hmm. And it's just, being able to sit with that person and let that experience sink in. It's being able to, be like, man, I haven't talked to this person in a while. I need to go out of my way to actually talk with them and, be interactive with them, because you never know when it's going to be your last opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's hit me the other day where I was actually in New York, and I was visiting an old neighbor. I don't have to go out of my way to visit this dude. 83 years old, love that dude, great dude. 83 years old, used to watch me and my younger brother, and I go out of my way to see him. Especially older people, you gotta go see older people because they don't get a whole lot of interactions, and I'm sure you know that. They don't get a whole lot of interactions, so it's cool for them. But that's beside the point. After I was done talking with him, there's another old lady across the street, and I'm like, man, I was literally sat outside my car, stood there. I was like, dang, should I go up to her door and ring her doorbell, see how she's doing? And I sat there, I was like, man, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it. I want to go back to the crib and chill, because I was about to leave to go back to PA. And I was like, man, you know what? Me being this young, that's the only reason why I think that. That's the only reason why I feel like, hey, I could come back tomorrow. Because I feel like with me being young, I have it tomorrow. That's not the same reality as her. Her perspective on life could be completely different. She can have a clock on her wall. She looks at every day like, damn, every second that goes by, this is it. You know what I'm saying? So with that running through my mind, I was like, you know what, let me go up and sit up to her. And I went up and rang the doorbell. Did she answer? No. But the opportunity presented itself, and you gotta take those opportunities when they come.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of something that I'm kind of learning more about as I go, is when you're in high school, or college or whatever, hopefully you have a teacher, coach, whoever it is, that has an impact on you. And my dad was a teacher before, so he always kind of emphasized, make sure you tell him you appreciate it. Make sure you thank him when you graduate, all that kind of stuff. If you have the opportunity, go back and talk to him. And I'm not super outgoing, so that's not something that I'm excited about. So like, hey, I'm going to interrupt your day because I'm sure you're excited to see me. Right? To me, that's crazy. But, and again, not being outgoing, that's not something that I'm super excited about. But this is my 5th year teaching, so I had a group of seniors my first year coaching. I had freshmen in the classroom who are now either graduated or who are seniors in high school. and I've had kind of almost a full cycle of students go through that I felt like, you know, I had my ground in teaching and in coaching, where, you know, my first year didn't really have things figured out, but at that point I kind of had things figured out, and I've had those students that I've hopefully had an impact on, and I'm also starting to get those students send me a text, you know, at midterm, send me an email and say, hey, thanks for this, thanks for that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, initially, and it's something that I'll have to fight through in terms of being more outgoing, but I'm starting to understand, even if it's just, hey, thanks for making me read this book, or thanks for making me take this class that I was, you know, didn't think I was ready for, or even struggled with, that those types of things are super important. And like you said, like you were thinking, like, do I go knock? Even if they're not there, you gave it an opportunity. You put that out there, and with people that aren't in our lives all the time, which we're finding out how many people fit into that category. It's important to reach out to those people, not just on your terms. Like, oh, I could go for a conversation with my best friend from high school.
Yeah.
I could go for a conversation with my buddy from college about basketball, whatever it is. Like, try to do it more often where it's a regular thing. It is out of your comfort zone. It's not on your time. It's presenting that opportunity.
Yeah.
You can, and especially now, you can send a text.
For sure.
Or it might feel stupid, like, hey, I sent that guy a text like 4 days ago, didn't get a response. Who cares?
Yeah.
You put, just like you went up to the door, you knocked on it.
That's
you
what matters.
Put the effort, you gave the opportunity. Keep throwing them out there. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I think that goes hand in hand with, like, you know, trying to make a big impression on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be something that's big. It could be something small, like a text message, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, that kind of also goes along with just gotta share love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't get enough of that in this world, and there's really no reason for anyone to, you know, not be happy, or, you know, will be good to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause you never know what somebody's going through. And, you know, there's a lot of things that go with that. You know, there's a lot of baggage that people carry throughout their day. And for you to do something nice for them, I'll never forget this story my dad told me. I don't know if he even remembers telling me this. And I might have been like 6. And it's something that I've never forgotten to this day. He said that there was someone in his class who was going through a rough time. And I don't know, my dad, when he was in high school, very popular dude. You know, people knew who he was. And had a big impact, football star, like somebody who was super athletic in the school. And, you know, there was a kid who, you know, probably wasn't really well known. People probably didn't really care too much about him, and he felt that way. And it was one day that, you know, the kid was walking by and he had dropped his books or something like that. And my dad went over and helped him pick it up and was like, yo, you all right? He's like, yeah, thank you. And they kept pushing it on the same way. Later, come to find out that kid was so depressed that he was actually on his way home to commit a suicide. And he said that my dad's kind of acknowledgement of him and him going out of his way to help this kid, you know, it made him feel like there is someone that, you know, is looking out for me. There is something that, you know, I'm here for. And for him to tell that not only to, you know, his son, but for me to be so young and for him to feel like it was important enough to tell me, it, you know, it resonated with me a lot. And like I said, to this day, I think about it all the time, and I always try to be polite to people. Even when I'm met with negativity, you know what I'm saying? Even when I'm getting yelled at, screamed at, I'm thinking, you know what? It's not this person's problem. You know what I'm saying? It's something that he's carrying or she's carrying that's not here right now. So I think it's important to also note just to be pleasant to someone else. You know, like that's huge, man. Like I take life very seriously, and for that something like that to happen, it was just like, man, that's crazy. I don't know if you have any stories like that or anything that's been in that kind of realm where you've helped somebody. I mean, that's to an extreme, of course, but you know.
I'm trying to think. Well, so you know, played golf in high school and college. I also played basketball in junior high and a little bit in high school. And looking back, there were definitely times especially at the end of my basketball career, where I wish I would have kind of been in the moment more, where instead of trying to prove myself in some small way, in practice on the court, with the guys on the bus, whatever, to really appreciate the locker room aspect, to appreciate what a tough practice is like, to appreciate playing the game with people in the stands and things like that.
Yeah.
Where golf's a very different thing, but just trying to, and there are some games where I think about, the game was over and I, just wanted to keep going. I thought like, we can't end this. I know time's out. I know we either won or lost, whatever. Let's just keep going.
Run it
this
back.
this has just been great.
Yeah.
And that trying to find that in more things and not just a basketball game that, we know our time's limited in those things, but trying to find ways to appreciate what it is around us and what it is that makes that game great. I think those are important things and things that I try to do.
Right. So, yeah, I think especially us being athletes, there's a lot of, aspects that come to that where it's like, oh man, do you really appreciate you being on the field or on the court or, wherever you may be, or in the pool or something like that. Excuse me. So it's kind of, especially for me, I've always kind of taken a moment to, kind of step back when I'm on the field, look around, look at my brothers, look at like, there was one time I'll never forget, it was this past season too. I was on the field and I'm sitting there, we're playing a pretty tough game or something like that. And I was nervous. I was like, I don't know why, I couldn't shake this nervous feeling. And I took a second to close my eyes. I'm on the field, like we're at mid, like, I think they had a timeout, something like that. I was on the field and I just took a second to close my eyes and I took a deep breath. And I just remember looking around and like, man, these are my brothers. These are some of the best friends I've made in college. And we get the opportunity to be out here and play one of the greatest games, in my personal opinion, the greatest game in this world. And with that right there, that just, I lost all feeling of nervousness. I was like, yo, this is a game. And you're gonna have to play. Like, you're just gonna have to show up. And at that point, I realized I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for that dude. I'm doing it for that dude. I'm doing it for that dude. I mean, that's the part of me playing as a team sport. Of course, with golf, you're a bit of a different dynamic.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you putting me in the category of athlete along with you. But yeah, I think a similar thing where, like my first varsity tournament, I was definitely nervous. I mean, I didn't know any of the upperclassmen on the team. Hadn't experienced that kind of competition, and my first shot of the round was just horrible. Just buried in the trees, couldn't get worse. And that was one of the first times where I thought, not in school today. Like, I'm in the woods. I may not find this ball right now.
Yeah.
It could be a long day. But this morning I thought I was going to be in school, got called up to the tournament, and I'm not. And so things like that, again, where, and I think with golf ties into what you said before, recognizing what you have in terms of the natural beauty in front of you. And like you said, again, it's also something not everybody can do. It's definitely a privilege to be able to play that type of sport, to be outside, to enjoy the beauty of it, where I try to do small things of, let me grab a picture of whatever it is we're doing on the course right now. It's going to mess up my concentration of the round, but I got to remember this view that I have. I remember when I was working at a golf course, I played the same course over and over because it's where I worked. But going out and playing without shoes on and enjoying the grass, the sand, everything like that, where it really was something where you can enjoy it from a competitive standpoint and appreciate going head to head with somebody. You can appreciate it from the natural beauty, being outside, having the views, having the wind, the fresh air, all that good stuff. And also, the privilege of just being able to afford playing at those times, and being able to play various courses and things like that. So.
I think it's a lot of, at least for me, what you just said kind of just made an idea in my head. Being appreciative is for people to stop thinking things are given to them and start thinking things is a privilege. You know what I'm saying? In any aspect of life, we're all spoiled in some way. Whether it be like, oh, I'm spoiled because I get to see every day. You know, stop thinking of that as something that's given. Like, yeah, you were born with that. That doesn't mean it's going to be there tomorrow. That doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to have it forever. I mean, it's a privilege that you're able to do those things because honestly, eyesight wears down. Maybe one day I got to wear glasses. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is not, you know, there for your enjoyment 24/7. You know, whether you, even if you earn something, I don't care. If you work your butt off, I got all this money now, just like that can be taken away. Everything you work for, crash down to the bottom. And at that point, then you got to go back to the simpler things. What do I appreciate? Do I appreciate me breathing? Do I appreciate, you know, back to what I was saying earlier. So there's a lot of things that, you know, you got to take the time to calm down and actually, you know, look at. And with that, I'm gonna challenge the audience and stuff. I always like to challenge my audience. So I want to challenge the audience to take the time to appreciate the basic building blocks of your daily routine. You know, appreciate waking up in the morning, even if you don't want to go to work. Appreciate having a job. Appreciate, especially in times like this, where so many great people lost their jobs, lost their businesses. Appreciate having a job. Appreciate waking up and rolling over and seeing a loved one. Appreciate, you know, having friends, having a cellular device, television, a roof over your head. You know, just the ability to watch this video or listen to this. Appreciate the ability to have that. You know what I'm saying? Feel the happiness of your day. And if it's a bad day, also acknowledge it. You know, because these dark times will make the sun shine even brighter when it comes out. You know, so just being able to acknowledge that, sit in it, let it sink in, will be like, man, this is what it feels like to be happy, knowing what it feels like to be sad. And I wrote a quote at the bottom. So the quote says, accept the darkness today to see the sunrise for a brighter tomorrow. And I don't know if that's like something that someone else has said, but that's something I thought of. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go ahead and take credit for it. I hope I don't get sued. Hope I don't get sued, but I mean, shoot. And I mean, that's kind of most of what I wrote. But with that being, you know, the topic of conversation, just like, I really feel like appreciation is something that we all can get better at, you know, myself included. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll do something and be like, oh, whatever, or I'll do it later, you know. So just really trying to take the opportunity to sit down and, you know, when you go back to your crib, appreciate the family you got around you. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, they grow up with a brother or a sister, you know, and they don't make it through childhood, or they don't make it to adulthood, you know. So it's like, be appreciative of stuff.
I appreciate being on the podcast. It's awesome.
Appreciate you being here, bro.
Being able to hang out.
Facts.
In town. It was awesome.
Word. Any closing thoughts for the people?
No, I mean, you had the quote down, you nailed it.
Word. Yeah. Appreciate you, bro. All right, homie. Good talk. Appreciate that, man. All right. Make out.